Hi everyone, this is Mr. Chang, and in this video, we're going to take a look at a while loop that counts down, as well as use a condition inside of the loop. In the previous lesson, we learned about while loops that counted up. So for example, we started off with a stepper variable that started low, let's say local x equal to 1. And then within the loop, we had another statement, x equal to x plus 1, which incremented our stepper variable. Now in this lesson, we're going to learn about a while loop that counts down. So in a while loop that counts down, we'll use a slightly different version of the stepper variable. So for example, we're going to initialize the stepper variable to a large value. And then in step 2, we're going to decrement the stepper variable inside of the while loop. So let's take a look at this. And we're going to go back into our Roblox studio. Let's go ahead and add a cylinder over here. Okay. And let's just verify the size of our part here. So I want my cylinder to be 411. And next up, we want to change the brick color. Brick color, we're going to change to a dark brown, which I think is this one. A medium brown. And the material that we're going to use is we're going to use wood. All right, now lastly, let's go ahead and anchor our part. And so we check that off over here. All right, so this is our starting point. And the next thing I want to do is duplicate it. Now notice we have a second part here. I'm not going to rotate this around. Oops, let's try this again. I'm going to rotate our part that we just added here. And then I'm going to duplicate it again and rotate that part kind of form, just to give you a heads up, a little fire that we're about to build. All right, now I'm going to highlight them all and we're going to union them together. And then let's go ahead and just name that to log, like so. All right, so now we're going to add a script and we're going to call it local part equal workspace dot log. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some fire. So to do that, we're going to create a new instance of fire. Fire is one of the several particle emitting classes in Roblox. And we're going to parent the fire to this part. So let's go ahead and in our code, we're going to say local fire equal instance.new fire. And then we're going to parent that to our part. Now, we're going to use the while loop here very specifically to control the size of our fire. And in this version, we're going to make the fire get smaller. So again, let's initialize our stepper variable to 5. And then we're going to create a condition here of x greater than or equal to 0. And then we're going to say x equal to x minus 1 because we need to make our stepper variable decrease. Now, notice that compared to the while loop that counts up, at least the way that we constructed our inequalities in the last lessons, the inequality sign flipped. So in the previous lesson, we had, let's say, local x equals 0, and then we had while x less than or equal to 5. In this version, we have, again, a stepper variable that starts high, so we have x equal to 5, and then we flip our inequality and we have x greater than or equal to 0. Now, again, let's take advantage of our stepper variable and use it to show the size of, use the value for the size of our fire. And we have to have a wait here, otherwise it will execute so fast that we wouldn't be able to see it. All right, so now just to see and keep track of what's going on behind the scenes, we'll do print x just so that we see the value of x while our script executes. All right, so as we can see here, we've got our fire and we've got 4, 3, and we can see the number going down. And now finally it's 0. But even at 0, our fire is still going. So to turn off our fire, disable it, we're going to create a condition inside of our loop. So let's go ahead and add a conditions. We have if x equal to 0, then we're going to say fire enabled equal false. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this now. And again, we'll watch our countdown as we are running our code here. So we've got 4, 3, 2, and then once it reaches 0, that's when our fire stops because we disabled it. Now let's go ahead and trace how the stepper variable changed through the iteration of the loop. So for example, again, we started off up here with x equal to 5, and then we had our condition. We have 5 greater than or equal to 0. That condition is true. And then that last line of code inside of our loop is x minus 1, so our 5 becomes a 4. So again, in our second iteration, we have 4 greater than equal to 0. That is true. Again, we go to our x equal to x minus 1, so that becomes 3. 3, third iteration, 3 greater than or equal to 0. That is true. Value, again, we go down by 1. That becomes 2 here. So 2 greater than equal to 0. That is also true. That again goes down by 1. So we have 1 greater than or equal to 0. And then that is also true. So again, we go back down here. We have 1 minus 1 is 0. Bring the 0 down here. We have 0 greater than or equal to 0. And that is also true. And now we've got 0 minus 1, which is negative 1. Okay, so now we have our condition negative 1 greater than or equal to 0. And finally, our loop is going to stop because that value is false. All right, so that is finally where our loop ends when the value of x becomes negative 1. All right, let's try one more script here. So let's go ahead and insert a sphere. So instead of studio, let's go ahead and say insert. We're going to insert a sphere here. Let's move that like right over here. And then we're going to change the properties. Let's go ahead and change the size here to 444. Okay, so it's already there. Let's change the brick color, and we're going to make this institutional white. Let's also anchor our part. So we're going to anchor it over here. And last but not least, we're going to rename our part to light ball. All right, now we're going to create a new instance of PointLight. PointLight is a light source that emits illumination from a single point, and light is emitted spherically based on the PointLight range. So again, let's go ahead and add a script here, add a script to our ball, and we're going to say local part equal workspace dot light ball, and then we're going to say local point light equal instance new PointLight. And then we're going to say we're going to parent that to our part. And again, we're going to take advantage of our stepper variable to use with our brightness this time. So we're going to say local x equal to 25, while x greater than equal to 0. We're going to say PointLight brightness equal to x. Then we have x equal to x minus 1. And then again, we have to put a weight in there so that it does pause for a little bit. So let's give this a try here. And as we can see here, our light is kind of shining here. And this is going to turn off. Now, if you notice here, this is getting dimmer and dimmer as it goes along. And just to have a little bit of fun here, let's make our light flicker. So to do that, we're going to use the odd even pattern. So let's go ahead and add that code in here. So we have if x modulus 2 equals 0, then we're going to enable and disable our PointLight. Okay, so if it's even, we're going to disable it. If it's true, we're going to enable it. Now, again, we want to just see the value of our x here. Let's just add a little print statement there. All right, so let's go ahead and run our code. And as we can kind of see here, now our light bulb is turning on and off depending on the value of the stepper variable, if it's odd or even. All right, I hope that helps, and I'll see you in the next video.